Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are moving to the second session of our introduction day to the ERC. We already had a lot of discussions. We heard presentations about what ERC is, what is its significance, what are the procedures, and we heard a lot of things about the changes which ERC has underwent in recent years. And so in that context, it is really my great pleasure to welcome here the president of ERC, Maria Leptin, Maria, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Maria
can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Maria is the best person to tell us, what the changes are, what is their significance, because she has been the architect of them. And so without further ado, I welcome her here. Thank you very much for finding the time in your busy schedule to be with us. And we are really curious to hear from you what's all the new about ERC. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Pavel. Thank you also, Zdeněk and Thomas. And dear ERC potential grantees, I don't see you as such, but I wave to you. I'm happy to be there with you. And I would first like to acknowledge with admiration and gratitude the work of the expert group for supporting ERC applicants in Czechia. And of course, it was Zdeněk Strakos who started this, and it's a wonderful grassroots bottom-up initiative that has reaped already the fruits of its work with the successes that Czech applicants have brought to Czechia in terms of success rates at the ERC. I should say right away that I use this as an example for best practice, both when I talk to politicians from member states and also in writing in examples, for other candidates and for other cultures to use something like that. It's really wonderful that we have you as an example for others how to do it. And so I'm very keen to do whatever it takes to help you in this and to strengthen your scientific community as best as I can. I have to say, I'm singularly ill prepared for, I've got a lecture here, I've got a speech here, but I just want to say, I've just got back from another event, and so I haven't had time to prepare well. I know what to say, don't worry, I'm not going to get lost. But I just want to mention the event from which I came because it's interesting. So I am, of course, currently fighting to support the proposal from the European Commission to double the research budget from for research in Europe in the next framework program. And I have promised the commissioner that I will rally the community, and that's you guys as well, to help with our message on why it is so important to fund this type of research. And your duty is, if you want to increase your success rates, not to do it only on the ground, but also to lobby at the European level to help the commissioner fight for this doubling of the budget in the future. Because it's a great proposal, but of course there are many people who want to cut it down. So that's that. And where I was right now is at an industry workshop. And, wow, huge audience. Great. Oh my God, how wonderful. I'll wave to you again. So yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. Well, the bigger the audience, the better this message is. We all have to work by talking to our parliamentarians. Those of you who hold grants, go and tell them, find out who your European members of your European Parliament are. Talk to them. Bring them into your labs, please. Bring them into your research groups. Tell them what you are doing and how it is for Czechia that Europe is funding this. So I'm really calling for this. The event at which I was an event with industry. Industry is also fighting for it. So any of you who can get your industrial leaders in Czechia into your research groups, and that's not only tech, it's also social sciences, understanding humanity, understanding poverty, understanding migration. Please contact your members of the European Parliament, invite them to listen to your research. Can I have a promise that you do that? I don't see anybody. Yes. Good. Thank you. Thank you. So now I want to talk about the changes we've made. The ERC Scientific Council, always our role, this is 22 scientists from throughout Europe. Until last year, we had Alicia Balkarova there. So the Scientific Council listens to the needs of the community, it listens to your needs, it listens to the grantees, to applicants, etc. And it listens to our panels to see how we can serve best the needs of the community. And so we continuously make small changes. I have written those up. I've written reasoning for those up. So you can look this up. It's on the web page, and we can also send it to you directly. Maybe we have to sort of maybe you guys mute yourself because I hear a lot of noise and it's kind of hard. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you something that is very relevant for you as potential applicants, and that is about the format of your proposal. You know, the proposal, the form comes with sections A, B, C, part 1, part 2. I want to talk about the scientific project proposal. It comes in 2 sections. Those of you who've applied in the past will know the rules from the past. Part 1 of the scientific proposal was called the synopsis, or the something synopsis. And then part 2 was the whole project. There were complaints from the scientific community, the applicants, that they didn't know what was supposed to go to part 1 and part 2, and where do we describe the background, where do we describe the literature, where do we describe our big idea, where do we describe our reagents or our study cohorts in the social sciences or our expeditions or whatever. There was uncertainty from the scientific community, and there was also pushback from the evaluation panels, who got these 5 pages of part 1 in the first step of the evaluation, and they didn't see part 2. They still won't see part 2, and they had to make comments on the feasibility of the project, whereas in fact you were explaining your methods only in part 2. So we've revamped that, and part 1 and part 2 are supposed to now be non-overlapping, but to form one whole. And basically the idea, if I put it in very short words, what part 1 and part 2 are about. In part 1, you want to convince the panel that the idea you're proposing is great, novel, potentially groundbreaking, stuff that's never been done before, a new question in the field. You've got to get them excited, not by hyperbole and blathering, but by well-founded reasoning. So that's the main thing. Now, there's always the question, well, anybody can have a good idea, but it's the details and the nitty-gritty, or the detail. True. And so the idea alone is not enough. And I'll give you an example from mathematics. If I wanted to say in mathematics that I was going to do groundbreaking stuff that's never been done before, I would go and look at the great unproven theorems in mathematics and just pick the most exciting one and say, I'll solve it, I'll prove it. Now, great, groundbreaking. But of course, without explaining how I will go about it, that is of zero value. So it's a great idea, but you also have to convince the panel of how are you actually going to go about it. Okay? So the how is a big part of the what. Nevertheless, we have removed a instruction to the panels from step 1 that was there before, and that is they were asked to comment on the feasibility of the project. Now, how does that differ from how I'm going to do it? It's a subtle difference, but an important one. So people would say, she's proposing to tackle this problem. Yes, it's been a great problem in our field. Nobody's known how to go about it. But she's proposing something here. It's never been done before, so why should we fund it? That's the kind of stuff we don't want. We also don't want the kind of, she's saying she's going to do that, but the reagents she's going to use are not described in these 5 pages, so we can't judge. So I tell them that's not what it's about, but it's the overall approach. Are you in the life sciences, let's say, are you going to do a genetic approach, a genetic screen? Are you going to do a biochemical one? Are you going to do a case study of human genomic variations or whatever? In the social sciences, are you going to do a survey? Are you going to do case studies? Are you going to do, a longitudinal cohort? How many people, etc.? So the approach has to be there, but not the nitty-gritty. So that's part 1. You have to tell them, this is my great idea, and this is how I'll go about it. In part 2, you then don't have to go over all the background again. You don't have to justify again. If you get to step 2, you have justified what you're doing. Now you have to convince them that your approach is solid. You have to tell them, what are you actually going to do? Are the reagents you're proposing to use, have they been validated? Or is part of your project to validate them? Maybe. Is part of your project to develop a new technology? Actually, you might want to put that in part 1. But, then it's really, how many people are you going to use? What are you going to do in detail? So now you have part 2, and it's only 7 pages now, because you don't have to go over all the background again, to really say what you will be doing and explain that to the candidates. Tell you what, I think we should do questions and answers after each thing. And this may be the most important for you. So how about I ask you whether that was clear or whether you want further clarification on this?
Yeah, we can try that. I was trying to get here so that you can see me. Yes, more or less. All right, so does anybody have a question about this? About how broad the B1 needs to be in terms of explaining how to do it. We have, tried to collect some questions in this Slido thing, but I don't know if that's.
Well, this is your chance to figure out how you tie the right.
Yeah. It's questions. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. So, how would you ideally start the part B2? Do you straightly jump to the methods, or how?
Okay. Let me think of myself as a panel member. I've read your first 5 pages. I sort of vaguely remember what you want to do. I now have to read your part 2, and I will probably go back to your part 1 and remind myself. But so don't, a couple of introductory sentences are probably good. Remind them what you want to achieve, and then you have to do it in chunks anyway. Your part 2 will be different aspects of the work. And so, yes, just to make it easy to get people's concentration, I would begin with 1 or 2 introductory sentences for everything. Maybe remind them, this is what I want to achieve. It will have these individual steps. Here are the problems I will have to solve. I will describe them below. Maybe have a little table of it. I always find it helpful to have a table at the top of any document that I read so that I know what the document consists of. Make it easy. You guys read stuff yourselves. You read applications from graduate students, projects, whatever. You read job applications. It helps always to give the person, a quarter of the page knowledge of what they will have to focus on. So I wouldn't jump right in. I would do a tiny recap and an overview, so they understand the structure. Because, there is no one template serves all. Different projects will have very different demands. But to give the reader an idea of what they are facing in the next 7 pages is always a good thing.
Maybe, Maria, I can follow that up with a question, like looking at it from the perspective of a member of the panel. So when we get the proposal, the full proposal, the B1 and B2, will be one document or 2, right? Because it makes a little bit of a difference if the second document starts, without much introduction, just aim 1 is going to be about this, aim 2, aim 3, right? So but if it's in one PDF, then you kind of, as an outside reviewer, understand naturally that you have to read it in order, right?
Okay. Well, the outside reviewers, of course, get the whole thing. So after step 1, at step 1, the panels were really clear about this. They did not want to see part B2. They don't even want to be tempted to look at it. Yeah. So we've listened to the panels, and they only get the 5 pages. At the second step, of course, they still have part B1. And, those who haven't read part B1 and get the panel, the thing to read will read it. Mm-hmm. And the outside referees, they, of course, get the whole thing. Yeah. But I will take your comment of this should be one PDF, and I'll take it back to the agency and say that this was a proposal.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I think you want to say something more, so maybe we can go on.
This really, I think, is the most important thing. Okay.
I was wondering whether you want to cover some other changes, or
So I'll tell you the 2 other things that are important. There's one thing that doesn't concern the potential applicants so much. It concerns panel members that we have trying to reduce the workload, and another is that we've changed the eligibility windows. And a final one is that we have a new type of grant called Choose Europe. So maybe I'll just go over them. So for the evaluation panels, we have, and actually this is important for you to know, our application rates have gone up. They've skyrocketed. So I'm really sorry to have to tell you that in the next round, the success rates will be even lower. I doubt whether what's gone up are the top level grants. So those of you who are competing for the top level, and that's all of you, and I know you're great at it, it may not matter. I think we'll be seeing more weak proposals, but you just got to be aware of that. And so, but for us, what it means is that our evaluation panels really have a problem because they have to read so many grants, which actually makes it even more important for you to really grab their attention in your first 5 pages. And so this also has meaning for those who end up not being passed to the second step, and who end up with the lowest grades in the first in the first step. And just to be clear, there is no shame in that. Somebody, we just get too many. But the ones in the lower half will no longer get a panel feedback. They will just get individual feedbacks. So that's because we have to protect the panels from too much work, and the lower tier of evaluations will no longer be discussed in the panel. So, like I say, that's probably less of importance to most of you if you're thinking of applying. What does matter is that we've changed the eligibility windows. So starting grant applicants for starting grants can now apply from day one after finishing their PhD. For most of you, that will not be a concern, because the other thing that we've changed is that you can apply up to year 10 after your PhD. This comes from the demand for this comes from scientific areas where the postdoctoral period has become so long that if you do a 5-year postdoc, you're already 5 years post-PhD. If you then look for a job, set up your lab, get going with the lab, you're finally ready to be independent and ask for an ERC grant, 7 years are gone. So those people now have another 3 years to apply. The zero is, of course, irrelevant for these people, but it is relevant for the people in the computer sciences, mathematics, etc., where people are often already very independent as PhD students. Some areas of the humanities as well. There are no postdocs in these fields, so they become independent right after their PhD. And why should we wait until industry or non-European countries snatch them up rather than letting them apply? So please, those of you who are thinking of that, day zero is your day. What that also means is that we've had to change the eligibility window of the consolidator grants, because the person who's applied for a starting grant in year 9 after their PhD, if consolidator was only available until year 12, then that would be bad news, because you would still be in your starting grant and you could never apply for a consolidator. So we've extended those to 15. And for the mathematician who got a grant in year 0 and wants a follow-up grant, they can't then wait until year 10. So we've reduced the limit to 5. So we have overlapping windows now for starting and consolidator. That may be confusing at first, but if you think about the fact that it is simply for to take account of different career trajectories, that might explain it. What you have to keep in mind is that what comes with this greater flexibility is nevertheless a restriction, and that is that you may hold only one grant of each type. So if you start at year 0 in starting, you can't apply again in year 6 in starting. You have to go to consolidator. And then if you go to year 6 in consolidator, you can't apply for another consolidator. You'll then have to be advanced. But you will be advanced. If you've held 2 ERC grants, by definition, you're an advanced applicant. So that's another change that will affect you. So any questions on that?
So
I think it's pure arithmetic, but please.
We have some questions online. I would like to ask you actually one question. It's very technical, and if you don't know the answer, please just it's completely understandable. But what if there is a situation now that somebody has just submitted an advanced grant because they couldn't do the consolidator? Let's say they get a C. Right? Then in 2 years, they are again eligible for consolidator, but they cannot apply because their advanced grant was not good enough. Yes. Did you consider that? It's a very special case.
So basically, yes. So if If they depends on which year they applied and what stage they are. If they get a C, they will face the restrictions that come with a C. If they get a B or whatever, they could then go back to consolidator. You know, if they're allowed to reapply next year, then they can go back to consolidator. They don't have to go back to. So yes, the same applies
group,
for
I think.
the starting. The people who were now ineligible for starting, they become eligible.
Great, thanks.
So windows are opening up.
We'll have questions from the online audience.
Hello, good afternoon, Professor Leptin. I'm the national contact point for ERC, and I will read some questions we have via Slido. Could you please tell us something about the planned ERC Plus call?
Yes, I was going to come to that. Shall we first do all the questions that relate to the two issues I've already talked about?
Okay. Okay.
Structure and the eligibility. But if there aren't, I can just go back and talk about ERC.
Let's do that. We have a question about the proposal structure. Do we have specific goals or even generic description, skeleton of work packages in B1? Or is it more about the general idea on the problem and how to go about it?
So, work packages. Work packages are something from the EU framework program speak that I've never related to. You can define work packages. It doesn't really matter. Work packages mean something. I mean, somebody once said, we don't talk about work packages and deliverables. Work packages are for Amazon and deliverables are for the pizza parlors. So you have goals, aims, but they're not deliverables. They're not really work packages because you don't know if you can deliver something at the end of it. So the language is not a language that I personally use. Of course, you have individual sub-projects, and you have to make it understandable for the panel how your project is composed. A project isn't a single line from A to Z. It's parallel lines that feed into each other. It's trying out something here. It may be trying out three things in parallel, of which you choose the best. That structure has to become clear. And whether you call them work packages and whether you have a Gantt chart there, it's up to you. Imagine the panel is trying to understand what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. They're not interested in these terms. So be creative, but be clear and be understandable and convincing. That's all I can say. And people do this in very different ways. Using cartoons, using normal language, using boxes. The sky's the limit. We don't give any constraints at all.
Thank you very much for answering this question. We have another question about open access fees. The applicant says that his fees for open access are the same as when he would hire a PhD student. Since researchers in other countries don't have to pay open access fees due to their country's contracts, I am at a disadvantage as the scientific audience only reads certain journals where I need to publish. Is there a solution? What do you think about that?
I think I better not say publicly what I think about that. I think it is a consequence of some of the open access policies. I'm totally pro-open access. And when I was EMBO director, I turned our journals that weren't yet open access into open access at great cost. So I'm totally pro-open access. The policies have backfired in a big way, and I'm painfully aware of that. I'm also painfully aware of what this potential applicant is saying. And it is unfair. On the other hand, remember that other countries are disadvantaged. People in Holland, for instance, their research grant, their ERC grant, is used up basically by 3 or 4 salaries, and then they don't have enough money to apply for consumables. So there are other imbalances as well, and be careful what you wish for. But for the open access fees, I mean, if you can't pay them, you'll have to ask for waiver from the journal, where journals do give waivers. I don't know if you would qualify, but it is an inequality. We can't do anything about this, unfortunately. We're totally, we have to follow the Commission policy on this. But I totally agree that it is an inequity that is the result from, it's a complex result, but it's there. And it's exploited by some journals.
Thank you very much. Next question is about the eligibility periods. The new ones for starting and consolidated grants, will they be calculated in the same way as it is now? That means
No. The day of your PhD is the day that matters. It's no longer, if that's what you mean, it's no longer the 1st of January of the year. It's It's real time after your PhD.
Okay,
if
thank
that was
you.
the question.
Yes,
so
that was
if
the
the
question.
applicant meant something else, then ask again. But that's, I think, the only question it could have been.
Okay, and then we have some strategic questions about the planning, future planning. What will be the time frame of the 2027 calls? When will the timeline be published? And what is the timeline for the 2028 call? And will you be planning to open a synergy grant call in 2028? So maybe you can mention it in the next part of the presentation.
Extremely difficult. Of course, we can't make any predictions about legally, we can't make any predictions about 2028 at all yet, because we don't know what the member states and the parliaments will demand. We don't have a budget. As you know, the ERC, the current ERC will not exist in 2028. A new ERC will exist. So we can't make any predictions at all. But from past experience, and this happened at the beginning of this framework program, because the budget was concluded so late that we couldn't put out the calls, we had to ditch one of the calls. And it was synergy at that time. So that may happen again. It's extremely painful for us to have to take that step, but we live in a real world with real money and real timing. So I'm afraid we simply don't know yet. So I cannot make any statements. We intend to have the calls on the regular rolling timetable. The timetable will be published on the website. I don't have that now, but for next year's already there. For 2027 it will be similar, but that's all the predictions I can make for the moment. Also, if the application numbers go up that much, we may have to resort to drastic measures, because we simply don't know how to handle those numbers. So I'm afraid that's a very unsatisfactory answer, and the reason to this is that we are not satisfied with what we can do. It's painful internally to have to look for solutions that we ourselves don't like.
No, I think it was pretty clear, actually. I think it's very understandable when the funding cycles change. There are misalignments. So, if you want to continue, I mean, we are quite curious about the ERC Plus. If you can talk about it.
Okay. So ERC Plus, yes, indeed, and we're also running out of time, I'm afraid. So the ERC Plus, what is the origin of that? The origin of that was a recognition by the European Commission and our commissioner that we must do more to make Europe attractive for top research. And so they started this Choose Europe initiative, which is partly to be welcoming to our colleagues from the US if they feel that they can no longer function in the US. I'm very much against calling it an opportunity for Europe. I see it only as a help our colleagues in the US action. There is no flip side of the coin of what Trump is doing. There's only the black, black, black side for all of us. We are one big worldwide science community. So there is Choose Europe is not Choose Europe at the expense of the US. It's trying to make Europe a better place for research. So having said all that, one idea we came up together with is to make grants available that are really big and really attractive, so that the very top people see that Europe is willing to fund their very, very, very innovative, very groundbreaking ideas. So what it is, and indeed the European Commission gave the ERC extra funding, extra 200 million euros, second time I'm making that mistake today, to fund these grants. They will be grants for 7 years for up to 7 million euros. The question is, how do they differ from other grants? We're already asking you to submit your very best, your very boldest idea, your most creative, groundbreaking thoughts. So what more can we ask for? We are aware that we can't ask for more. However, sometimes there may be just projects that are too big, that would take too long, or that are too expensive. You really need to develop a lot of new things that you would otherwise do stepwise. But if you can do them all at once, it's better. So I can think of scenarios where there is a justification for asking for a longer time and for more money. And it's for these really big, innovative, creative ideas that go beyond what you could do with a regular ERC grant that we're looking for. So that's one criterion. And we expect, so the application procedure will be exactly the same, except that we expect a brief vision statement where the applicant has to explain how this goes beyond what they could do with a regular grant. That's one thing. The other thing is, if you give somebody money for 7 years and that big a sum up to 7 million, then you really want to see that this person has done amazing things in their past. And so that's what we will also see. We now very much ask our panels, at least at step one, not to pay too much attention to the CV, but to give people the benefit of the doubt, even if they're unknown or very young or whatever. In this case, we will ask them to look at the standing of the researcher. And this does not mean that they have to be very senior with a long publication list. Everyone in the council agrees that really groundbreaking ideas often come from the younger cohorts. And we all agree that we, as senior people, are able to recognize that in a young person. So that's what we'll be looking for. And, you will often people have done something in their postdoc that goes way beyond what the PI as their postdoctoral advisor did. They really made the next big step in their PI's research group. And so young people can also have those kinds of credentials. So that's what we'll do. A grant, a big grant for a long time for all age ranges and all fields. It'll be very interesting to see what's coming. One thing that has to be kept in mind for potential applicants is the money we have is just about sufficient for 30 grants. Sounds good at first sight, but if you think that we actually have 27 panels and that we have those for each cohort, and that normally we award to all of those people 1,000 grants per year, then you have the difference in competitiveness for these. So there's only 30 super grants or ERC plus grants versus 1,000 regular grants. 30 times as competitive. So that's the kinds of ideas and the kinds of quality of grants we're looking at. So you can hear here, my narrative is trying to discourage people from applying. And that's because we don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to raise false expectations. We don't have the capacity to screen through thousands and thousands of applications. We want those that really are special.
Very interesting. Is this going to be evaluated alongside the normal proposals or special call?
Yes, it's so the first step will be evaluated by an advanced grant panels, by the panels, because we need the expertise and subject matter for that step. And then anyone who's passed on, who's deemed to be in the top tier, and of course they have a comparator, will be passed on to a special panel. So we will establish a new panel that will look at, do the comparison across the whole field.
Maria, I think there will probably be more questions, but you have to go, right?
I have a couple more minutes. So if they're pressing questions, I'll be happy to take them. It's more important.
Do we have more questions online, Petra?
One about, lump sum budget. Will the lump sum budget also be implemented for other ERC schemes in the future?
It's like so this has not been discussed, but the lump sums seem to be working well for advanced grants. So we will continue to evaluate this. They've only been running for a year. We don't know how this will work at later stages, but we're evaluating this pilot with a view to considering them for other levels as well. But nothing has been decided. It's completely open.
I think we can ask the audience for the question.
Please.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. The ERC Plus grant scheme sounds like a super advanced one. Is there any restrictions for the PIs, like the other ones, like the consolidated and the...
No restrictions. Anyone, any career stage can apply. And we're hoping to see many from young people.
That sounds great, but my question is, like, would there be like more points if there's like more experienced people? Like you say anybody can apply, but the grading, will that affect the grading, like if you have more experience or not, or is just the idea?
No.
Okay.
Experienced, I know some old people who are very experienced and extremely boring. So we don't want those. We want exciting ideas, and exciting new ideas are experiences that they're more likely to come from young people. Of course, as with everything, the idea alone is not sufficient. You have to have a good supporting material that shows you can do it, and you have to have shown in the past that you've done something that goes beyond the normal. You may have done that as a postdoc, you may have done that as a graduate student. You have to explain that as well. But there's no points for being old or senior. We will not count publications. We will not count prizes.
Yes, one more question.
Sorry for a stupid question maybe, but could you tell us in 3 words from your point of view the characterization of super perfect successful ERC proposal?
Not in 3 words. So one thing, it has to be perfect in format. That's easy to achieve. And yet not everybody achieves it. So that was the easy bit. After that, it really is. It has to be creative. It has to be forward-looking. It's not more of the same. You have to get the panel excited. If you get the oh wow factor, you at least make it to the second step. And then at the second step, you really have to support it. You have to show that the, oh, wow, is not hot air, that you've thought through everything. That's why it's so important that you give your first proposal to your worst enemy in the field, who will trash it. If you haven't had your proposal trashed at least once by colleagues, it's unlikely it's going to be successful. Get critique. That's my strongest advice. And don't get it from a commercial company. Whatever you do, don't get a commercial company to help you.
I second that. I remember, Maria, you once sent me your application before you became an ERC president. I'm not the worst enemy, but yeah, I mean it is.
You got it in that round, and I didn't, Pavel.
Yeah. All right. So I think those were really nice last words. Thank you so much for being here. It was super interesting, informative. I mean, you're great, and we appreciate that you found the time to spend it with us. We will continue having a discussion here, but having it with you, I mean, that's really special. And thank you again.
Okay. Well, great pleasure to talk to you. Good luck to you all. And remember, I made you promise that you will invite your members of the European Parliament to your labs and to your research groups and explain to them what you're doing.
I promise. We all promise.
Okay, good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So now we will have a panel discussion, a little bit lower profile, but nevertheless very interesting. So I would like to invite the panelists to come forward and we start, because I don't think we can have a break, right? Yeah. All right. Okay, so I will maybe briefly introduce myself. My name is Pavel Tomančák, and I am a member of the ERC expert group. Among other things, I'm quite passionate about, supporting the science in Czechia for, becoming to get where it belongs, which is, I think, on the forefront of European Union in terms of success. And I think we are. This is really the reason why we do what we do. Having said that, I am not a journalist nor a moderator. So I've never done a panel discussion before. So bear with me. I would like to start by introducing the panel members, but I would like to actually do it in a way that I let them introduce themselves. So I would like to start by that you always say a few words about what you work on, what is your connection with the ERC, how do you participate, whether you are on a panel or have a grant or both, and we take it from there. So please.
I did it already, right? Yeah, so go ahead.
You don't have to. You are well known.
Okay, so my name is Kateřina Čapková. I am a historian, and I have a ERC grant. So this is probably the reason why I'm here. Okay, so the ERC project is called Inclusive History of East Central Europe from mid-19th century to present.
Okay, yeah, my name is Elisabeth, and I'm actually not Czech. So I'm working here, though, since almost 4 years, and yeah, I'm here because I got an ERC grant. And I work at the Biology Center in České Budějovice, and I'm working on plastid evolution in microbial eukaryotes.
Hello, I'm Libor Barto, and I'm scared of people. Yeah, so apart from that, I'm a mathematician and a theoretical computer scientist. I try to understand computation, which problems are efficiently solvable or which are not. And yeah, I've got a consolidator grant, and now I'm a part of a synergy grant with colleagues from Vienna and where is it, Dresden.
Hello, I'm Adam Williamson. I am definitely not Czech. I have previously had an ERC starting grant, several proof of concept grants, and I currently have an ERC consolidator. So I am working on methods of brain stimulation in epilepsy patients. I am currently working in Brno at St. Anne's University Hospital, which is fantastic. And we're part of the Faculty of Medicine at Maastricht University.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for this round of introduction. And so now, I mean, we have these kind of discussions before, but you know, what we would like to concentrate on today is the following question, which is the research environment in Czechia ready to accept the ERC program as its important part, right? So is the research environment ready to accept ERC? That's my first question. Not very creative, I know. But I would like to have a short answer, ideally yes or no, so that I can understand, you know, who is on which side of the fence. And we can start with Adam.
It is entirely dependent on whether we are talking about administration or scientists. So the answer is definitively no if we're talking about certain parts of Czech administration.
Okay.
I have never worked somewhere that is as beautiful scientifically as this country. You people have a phenomenal undergraduate education system. We have technicians at our hospital that are functioning. I moved from France, yeah, that are functioning at the level of neurologists in France. Yeah, I got myself, when I first moved here, into some trouble by making some comments about how impressed I was with the level of science. Now, it might be a little bit different for some of you if you're out of the Ministry of Education, but we are out of Ministry of Health. And the administrative nightmare there is, I don't know, maybe it's just a regular, you're all going to tell me it's yes. But if I go to certain administrators and I say, I want to do X, I know immediately that Franz Kafka was Czech, because the process starts. And I am immediately guilty, and the administrator believes that my request, I clearly want to steal. Right? I want to steal. And then the vetting process starts. And it's completely department specific. I would say we have Susanna Blazkova here. She's one of the most wonderful administrators we have. She's out of the grant office. We have a fantastic grants office. But, you know, some of these other departments, I won't name them, you know, but it's insane. It's insane level of administration. Okay. I have to get a travel order, and it needs 37 signatures, including the hospital director. Like, why?
Tough, yeah.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Thank you for the concise yes, no answer.
Sorry.
I know on which side of the fence you are in terms of the length of the response. That's very good. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, no is impossible. I believe. I mean, it's non-binary. My kind of biggest impression is that all scientists here know that communism doesn't work in politics, but they mostly believe it works in science. So that's why, yeah, that's the minus somehow.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I mean, I also spoke to some colleagues at my research institute, the biology center, that also are holders of the ERC. And as I'm not so familiar with the Czech system, but our consensus was that before you get the ERC, there's a lot of support. Afterwards, not so much. So I'm also more on the no side.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, I would like to divide it into the phase of when you get some support when applying, and there was always a rumor that you cannot have such a support here in Prague as abroad, and so my experience was the opposite. I think I'm glad that Štěpánka Grey-Marková is here. I got such a support from her that I think not many people, I know, for example, in Vienna or other countries got. So this is really something I would like to mention. But otherwise, yeah, administration is horrible, and it's unfortunate that you only after you get the grant you see that the half position for the project manager is not enough, because she has to spend so much time with all the administration. So that's really bad.
Yeah, so I think that in this country there are exceptions that are perfectly compatible and perfectly ready to for ERC. I think this working group that Zdeněk started is really a prime example, and we heard it also in the speech by the president of the ERC. So really huge respect. But I still think these are more exceptions than a general rule, including all levels, actually. I think including scientists to start with, including the research organizations. And among ministries, I don't think there's any exception, actually. Now, on the other hand, ERC started already in 2007, was the first call I remember. Now, I got my first ERC, I think I applied 2009 for my first ERC. When I got it, my director refused to sign the contract. Okay. When I asked what's going on, he said that, first of all, he doesn't know at all what this is. And second, he has no money to co-fund it. Okay. So I think that has changed.
Okay. You have a question, Zdeněk, or a comment?
I have just a comment. When we've applied with Josef Malek for ERC grant, so the person who was a high official at the university at the time, who was responsible for signing, so ran to the office and said that yes, okay, after thinking he's going to sign, but we must rapidly, greatly increase the overhead.
Okay. So maybe that actually brings me to my first question, which was inspired by what you said. What do you think is the motivation of Czech institutions to want to bring in their ranks a ERC grantee? And you can just, take that question, whoever wants to, whoever has some good idea to come in their mind. What is the motivation? Why do institutions here try to get the ERC grantees?
In my specific case, the motivation was, I think, was very positive from the director of the institute at the time. So she was doing the job of some administration, but was still a working professional scientist. And, if I remember correctly, her motivation, it would be, Adam has won this ERC consolidator, and I would love him to leave Marseille and come do his epilepsy research in, because she thought that would be best. So I think it was, her motivation was clear, and my motivation to come was similar. I think the conditions were fantastic, right? We had some really good epileptologists like Milan Brasdil, But I think the direction of your question is the administrator and what is their motivation for us to have an ERC, right? And there I mean not like a non-scientific, bureaucratic, like a creature, like a bureaucratic. I don't have a better word. There I don't know. My experience with one or two has been very negative. I don't know what they want. I don't know why they're coming to work. That type of a person. We're very lucky now, where I'm working right now, we have some fantastic administrators who clearly see their role as, long-term benefiting patients. Like the better job and the better infrastructure they create for us, the better we can do work, research, and help people ultimately. But I think the direction of your question, as you can clarify, is this bureaucratic creature that clearly is not aligned with good science, or in the case of us, medicine, helping people. I don't know what their motivation is.
Okay. Do we have other opinions?
So maybe So when I was asking for my first grant, I didn't feel there was any motivation. So I guess the dean just signed. I want it because it was another grant we can ask for, right? So there was no difference. I think now the motivation is that somehow the leaders of the institution know that it's good and it's good for rankings and good for money to have such grantees. So this is one of the motivation apart from overheads. So now it's kind of known that it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it depends also a bit on the leader of the institute. So when I started, Jula Lukash was the director of our institute, and he was really pushing for ERC really as for scientific excellence, so not just for prestige, but really to push the science in the institute. But now that I also got the grant, I feel like I'm, of course, also being waved around during evaluations and as a prestige person. Not so much when the review panels are gone again.
So I agree that I think it's now quite prestigious to have somebody with an ERC. But I think myself, I can only say why I was applying, and it was because I had an Expro grant from the grant agency, and I had to. And I totally, I am open. I would not apply if there was not this pressure.
Yeah. It's very interesting, the range of opinions we have here. Tomasz?
That's good, because I remember when we introduced this as a necessary condition, so it's good it works. Positive motivation. So I talk about exceptions here, and I think one exception that I like to always emphasize is the Institute of Organic Chemistry and Biochemistry, which is, I think, one of the few research institutions here in Czech Republic that really has a tenure track and tenure scheme. And they have international advisory panel who is actually selecting people to be hired for the tenure track and the tenure and then advancing to the tenure positions. And there, as it is common in elsewhere in Europe, having an ERC is a big plus. I mean, it doesn't mean that it necessarily the person is hired, but it's one of the boxes. If you tick, then you have a very good chance to get the tenure track or the tenure position. So I think that really makes sense to me, and I wish this was more common than an exception.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a very good moderator because I have strong opinions about all of this, right? But I was fishing for the answer that it's a recruiting strategy, right? Because the institution which I represent here uses ERC potential for bringing an ERC as a recruiting strategy, right? So, the position can become available, and supported also internally, but becomes kind of feasible when the person can bring an ERC. So it is somewhat also, it's about the science, but it's also about the resources. So anyway, so that's motivation. Now, we will get to the administration, which is the burning issue, right? But let's go maybe a little bit stepwise, right? So now the question, this is what we are all about here, is how to facilitate that people actually are successful in the ERC competitions. So maybe we can just briefly go through the experiences which you maybe had, or which your institution is kind of willing to put on the table to make you successful, right? And this will be something which goes beyond what the ERC expert group is providing. So what does the institution you work for locally do to increase the success of ERC competitions, in ERC competitions? Anybody? Also Adam.
I talked first the last times. I thought I would wait. I don't know. So, from my perspective, obviously, my largest ERC is Consolidator, which I wrote elsewhere and moved. But I've won some proof of concept grants here. And have submitted many other grants with our grants office. I think there was a lot of talk today. There was a lot of, the template has changed, the template didn't change, if you're submitting one of these grants, you're smart, fill out the damn template. It's like, you fill it out, okay, you fill a template. But then that process is much nicer with a grants office that is really dedicated, to the mission. So again, in our specific institute, we happen to have a very good grants office. I've worked other places with a grants office. It's like just nighttime noise if you send them some text to look at, right? So it is really nice to have a grants office that assists you, reads it, gives you critical feedback, that organizes things like mock interviews, sends this to other experts who you may or may not know, so that you can get some really great feedback. Obviously, as you progress in your career, you'll have those relationships yourself. You were talking to Maria about this. You're able to pass grants back and forth. But I think that's I was going to say that's the minimum. But a lot of places don't have that, I know. But we do. But if you have a creative, good idea and that minimum is met at your institute, you're already in pretty good hands. Yeah. I don't know what your opinions are on that in terms of the process of success.
So the question, what should be done to be successful, or why were we successful?
I mean, what was your experience? Was there something which was done for you, which helped you?
These events you organize, that was very helpful.
But beyond that, so locally?
What was great is my department, which is kind of an island of liberalism in the deeply conservative university. So that was certainly helpful. And
okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I have to say, we have a project manager that helped me, but really with the formalities. So making sure the budget didn't use the wrong positions under the wrong subheadings, and a little bit with filling out the part A, but the proposal itself, I was totally on my own without when not considering the expert group. So I organized mock interviews, I sent it to colleagues, so I just really relied on my own network, pretty much. Yeah.
So in my case, as I've mentioned, the grant manager from the Faculty of Arts, Charles University, Štěpánka, was helping me enormously, also in a way to coach me, because I had in the end only 1.5 months for writing the application, and was extremely busy with finishing Ex-Pro, and so it was extremely demanding time for me. So it was really great that she was my coach. At this same time, of course, I had to come with my idea, and I wrote the whole application. And what was helping me enormously was also already before that I had a dense network of colleagues, friends abroad who could read the first draft at the end of July. The deadline was at the end of August. So yeah. But it was Štěpánka who also organized the mock interviews, and yeah.
Well, IOCP perspective, I guess.
Yeah, so I never applied for starting or consolidator. I guess I was not too old for consolidator, but I didn't notice that there was consolidator already introduced, so I applied for advanced. But I was very lucky that the first year the ERC was founded, I was called to the panel. So this is the best training, by the way. So if you ever get a call from ERC to become a panel member, do it. Because you will see a lot of proposals and you can learn. So this is exactly what I did. So first year I served on the panel, and the next year I applied with a lot of info. So that was the best training. But I didn't talk much about our institute, but in terms of the basic administration, we're talking about finance office, but also grant support office. It actually works very well. I also have some affiliated positions elsewhere in the world. And the one in Prague, it actually works the best compared to the UK or other countries. So it's actually good. And it's very important to have good finance office, understanding of the rules of EU, etc. So, and we also have Ilona Gottwaldova. I don't know if she's here today, and she can give a very good feedback also on the scientific proposals to the junior applicants in our institute. So.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I was kind of heading to, I think my understanding from your answers is that motivation is there in the institutions, but the support which is given, to fulfill that motivation varies, I guess. It's pretty good somewhere. It is not, and then, one can always rely on the international network. And we kind of hear this a lot, right? So there is something which is missing, somehow locally when people first, turn to their international friends rather than, their colleagues or people who have it as a job description to help them. So that maybe be something to consider. Now I will give opportunity to the audience, but I wanted to go through kind of the steps, right? So now we have the ERC grant in the institution, and then the execution of it, right? So what are the biggest obstacles you encountered with an actual ERC grant, the actual ERC grant from European Union, where there will be some administrative obstacle which just you did not expect even that could happen? From the side of administration in Czechia, because we're talking about how ready are we, right?
I wanted to start, but not to leave it for you, but yeah, I don't know what to say.
Go, please, go.
I'm not sure whether it's administrative obstacles, so it's like execution of the grant, maybe I can say as well, a little bit. So I was extremely lucky to have a great department boss, so who was kind of fighting for me instead of myself. So, but somehow the experience he had with the higher levels were a bit disturbing. So, I wanted office space, and actually my boss figured out some very nice, solution given the tight spaces we have. And now suggested to I don't know who. Let me not mention people. And this guy's position was, this strange guy got this grant, and he wants something extra. And I even didn't want it, kind of. My boss fighted for it because he thought I did, But the position was really like we are all kind of the same, and it would be unfair to give some advantage to someone who got this grant because it's just another grant.
That's the communism, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't experience it kind of very directly. I just know stories, just because I was lucky to have somebody who fought for me.
More horror stories?
So I must admit that in my case, I really appreciate how, what support I got from the leadership of the Faculty of Arts and from many of the vice deans, and that's what I enjoy up today, and I hope it will last. At the same time, the administration of the faculty, it's the first ERC grant for this faculty. They are not ready for this, and some of them tell you openly in the personal department that they really blame you for having members of the team from abroad. Yeah. So what are doing to us? Yeah. So and sometimes it's really frustrating, and I feel helpless and so on. Fortunately or unfortunately, there is a person now, the grant manager, who got the most hit. But it's I'm sometimes really angry that we spend so much energy, and it's really a fight I was not expecting.
Continue with this. So, I mean, the people I'm working with in the administration, they're great. So there's some experience with ERC grants in the biology center, but they're just too few. So we have one person responsible for hiring, for getting visas. And when she goes on vacation in summer, nothing happens. And a lot of stuff is just happening still in Czech language. So procurement that has to happen now on legal level. I need to have lawyers that just don't talk to me. Everything happens behind my back, and then I'm waiting 5 months for my investment, and I get the wrong thing just because there is no communication. And this is just, like you said, very frustrating. You invest like so much energy and try to do your best, and then there's just not the infrastructure. And I mean, the people who are working hard, but they can't do magic. So there just need to be a different structure.
The problem you've had has been procedural. There's only a few people, and I don't even really interact with them, and they're not with us anymore, that I would have called like a bureaucratic creature, like a person where I thought like this person's just making problems. A lot of it is the administration, and when I'm making jokes about the administration here, and specifically like rules from the Ministry of Health, this is not an entire category of like bad people. It's just procedural. The problems are procedural. So I could just give like 2 very quick examples. You see that at our hospital, we also have an entire staff and purchasing, and these people they have families, and no one's evil. But I'll say, we have an ERC grant, and some of our work requires some very complicated electrodynamic simulations. I'm going to buy a graphics card. And procedurally, this is not done. What we do via Ministry of Health in the hospital is we provide nurses with standard issue laptops. Like, I said, no, I need a graphics card. They're like, no, we do standard issued laptops, like for the same one that the nurse uses. I said, no, I need a graphics card. And then that's where it just stops. It's just nighttime noise. You're like, so how do I do this? You're like, well, I don't know. So eventually it turns into some huge open procurement process, and instead of me just getting a graphics card the way I would have at a previous university that I don't want to work at because I want to be here because of the level of science and the humans that are here, right? That would have been one click. Now it's 10 months, and then I get an offer that comes back and says, we've selected for you Dell. I was like, Dell? They don't make graphics cards. Like, what are you talking about? And you look at it and you're like, this isn't a giant machine. This is 10,000-year-old machine. I needed one card. What have you done? So you go, okay. And then the same thing with like booking travel. Yeah, it's just procedural. It's just a bit of a nightmare that could be updated. So you say nurses that travel from Brno to Ostrava for a CPR course, that's travel. So there's minimums, and they're part of the health infrastructure. So there should be 37 signatures that approve that this nurse is going to be on a bus going to Ostrava. I said, I'm an invited speaker at the American Epilepsy Society. I need an international flight. And you go, oh. I said, I need the hotel that's near the conference center. They went, but we found another hotel that meets the same requirements as the hotel in Ostrava in terms of number of stars. I went, that's in Oakland. Like, I will be killed. You cannot send me to Oakland in a hotel that's $70 American. Do you understand that? But that's not how we do it. They look at me. They're not bad people. They're just like infrastructurally, there's something, and that's why I made my joke about Kafka. And some of it, you just go like, and then the director laughs and says, if we could clean that up, I would not be funny. I would no longer have the opportunity to be here and be funny.
I think Oakland has been quite gentrified in the meantime. You should not be afraid to go to Oakland, but but I get your point, Arab. Yeah. It's hard.
I'm not moving to your hospital. So Institute of Physics is a heaven. No, I mean, administrative-wise, having an ERC in the Institute of Physics is no-brainer. Period.
Anyway, so I think this is actually really good because it gives us an overview of is the research environment ready? Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm quite surprised of your horror stories. So on the other hand, at our faculty, actually, this kind of travel and stuff work extremely well. I mean, I buy my tickets and then I get paid, and it's extremely easy. So I guess it very much depends on the
exactly that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, this is extremely easy and easier than anywhere else I know, like Germany or
some
States.
environment is ready, some environment is less ready. Yeah.
You and I had a discussion about this at some point. I was going to throw myself out of my office window. And I talked to you on a Zoom call, and you said one issue was the number of ERCs that are affiliated with Ministry of Health. You gave me a number. I feel like maybe you said one. And
yeah.
That it was just lack of like the infrastructure is there for a certain set of activities, and some of the activities, although logical to me and somebody that's working in research and medicine, that the infrastructure is not there. Like,
I think you might be really the only Czech PI who works in a hospital. So, in a sense,
I did it to myself. I did it to myself.
Pioneer here.
You have beautiful hospitals, so I mean, it's wonderful to be here.
Okay, so I will turn to the audience next, but I wanted to raise one more issue. So ERC CZ, who in the panel has experience with that, right? And so you know what it is, right? So what is good, what is bad, and what is ugly about ERC CZ?
Also motivation to know that it exists. So just to have the prospect was good, but I haven't really experienced it. So.
And anybody else? Because like now we are talking about administration and Czech administration dealing with the fairly low level of administrative burden coming from the ERC, right? But now, the grant comes from the Czech Ministry of Education, and the administrative burden becomes bigger.
I just want to confirm that I've heard from other people who are applying that this is somehow extra motivation for them to apply, that this ERC-CZ exists, so there is a fair chance, a better chance. So. Well, positive.
Yeah. This is very positive. I agree with that because that's about the motivation once again, right? I mean, you don't get the ERC, but you might still get the ERC CZ, right? Okay, so maybe you don't have so much experience with this. So then let's go to the audience. I will pass the microphone.
Thank you, Pavel. I just finished my ERC CZ, the short one, that 2 years. And what surprised me was that the application, although, the evaluation was already done by the ERC panels, but then I had to translate some parts in Czech for the ministry. And I just, a couple of months ago, wrote my final report, and in Czech also. I had to ask colleagues to translate it for me because not only the Minister of Health is not ready for that, but even our Ministry of Education is not ready for ERC, apparently, or at least for international ERC or ERCs at grantees. So.
Maybe I will start with this last issue, but I will not give the full story because we will be here for a long time, and Pavel knows it also. ERC-CZ is absolutely great program, and one person who really pushed it through is Tomáš. So we should really give thanks to him, because he was really, I know what I'm talking about. So because I at that time was reading this proposal, etc. We discussed that, and he was really instrumental with very few other people. And he was that time serving for this committee for the government, what unfortunately the practice, including the communication with the applicants, but this is only a little bit. You are not aware of what the people who really serve in this, how it's called, advisory committee have to experience. The way it is practiced is a Stone Age bureaucracy. It's absolutely terrible. Starting from this, that instead of getting just files like with the ERC, you, as an evaluator serving in this, you get, 15 different files, total, and the people are asked to do things that totally have no meaning. That's very unfortunate. But things are moving slowly, but moving. So some things have been changed, and hopefully it will improve. Again, it is not against the programmers itself. It's the best program for supporting science, domestic program that we have. But unfortunately, practice is they are overworked. These people, that they don't understand what they are doing. They even don't have time to educate themselves, and that's a consequence. And last week there was a CRECON meeting where there were also there was one person from the Ministry of Education. I would say a good person, knowledgeable. And we have discussed that again in person, privately. Hopefully things will kind of change with this, because this program only needs smoothing this practice, nothing else. Everything else is just great, but the practice is completely, unfortunately, wrong. Yeah. Anyway, it works, so please don't give up, okay? That's how the life is. Yes, I have two little comments on this. First, one thing was mentioned here. When we have, and now I'm turning to the people who are in the audience from the offices, supporting offices. What we do need is to have people in these supporting offices who are there to help applicants and then to help them with the administration of the grants themselves, to be devoted to ERC. Not to do this work for zillion other grants, because that's the problem. These people then are unable to distinguish between the gotcha grants, between the other grants, etc., and it creates a total mess. So we need at the individual faculties, individual institutes, even perhaps in large departments, if there are people devoted just to ERC, to help the applicants and the ERC grantees, but just focused only on the ERC, nothing else. That make a big change. Okay.
Well, Katerina Bouchalová, Department of Pediatrics, Palacký University, thank you very much for this opportunity to learn. So I would like to tell these organizers first. Second, I would like to ask a question to Libor Barto, mathematician. So you've described obstacles from higher levels of your faculty, probably faculty. Have it changed after you became a professor?
I don't think it changed after me becoming a professor. It's, I think, irrelevant, but just the people changed, and now I think the situation is a bit better. So now theoretically, people know that ERC is good, but practically not much. So I don't know. I would talk too much perhaps, but I think the change is rather in people than my titles or whatever.
Thank you. Thank you also for organizing this panel. I have a question for Kateřina Čapková. My name is Veronika Čapska, so it's nice to see someone who got an ERC Advanced and whose surname starts with Ch, which is quite a challenge. But Kateřina, I have a question because you've mentioned the difficulties that the administrative actually voices in terms of hiring foreign scholars, and it seems to me that it mainly is perceived as a legal horror. So my question would be if the administrative and the faculty leadership actually address clearly what the problem is. Is it the necessity to hire a legal company which basically consumes money that could be used for research, or is it the legal complications, or what is it? Because I've noticed this and I'm very much interested. Thank you.
Yeah, so I must admit that I did not make it easy for the department because of the personal issues of the department because I have 7 team members, out of whom who are in 6 different countries outside Czech Republic. So and only in Ukraine there are 2, but otherwise it's really always a different country. So that makes it it's not totally easy because they are paying, because I also want them to stay there where they are, or they also need to stay where they are because of their families, but also I need them to work in the archives in their countries. So this makes it a little bit complicated because each of them has a different tax paying and have insurance and etc. Yeah. I think they had to hire an external legal company, but at the same time, there is no way they would somehow feel some understanding that I need it. So it's really, that's why did you need to do it? And so it's really, so that's also, whenever I go there, I have to prepare myself. It's a hostile environment for me, and I had also other issues there to solve. So, but otherwise, I think it is manageable, and I know from other projects which I had before that we hired somebody from abroad, and it is possible. It's only more work at the beginning. Yeah.
Do we have more questions? Otherwise, I fire something. But
I would like to ask you. You mentioned different experiences with the level of support, administrative support, and I would like to know what kind of support would you have appreciated during the proposal writing, which you maybe didn't get and would like to have?
Suzanne is from our hospital. She's fantastic. She helps a lot. So I don't have anything, nothing that you didn't already do.
Before, like while writing, so scientific support, excellent. You don't need much administrative support, I don't think, at least from my grant. So you need to fill in this table with a few numbers. But I did have troubles with this because, for example, I was not even aware there is something like super gross salary. I didn't know the concept. So and somehow I tried to call people like who would give me advice on such things. And that was not very successful. So I don't know how it works now. So I wanted to ask how much money I want to pay a postdoc, and I got 3 different answers by order of magnitude from 3 different people helping writing the grants. So I don't know how the situation is now, because asking for the last grant, I didn't ask anyone. And but somehow originally I was not aware that I should put money for audit and such things. So just very simple things, because it's very short. So like 3 advice would be enough, but I didn't get it. Yeah, so this is, I would appreciate. Put money to audit, have a grant manager, money for a grant manager. You should ask for roughly this money perhaps, or in this range. Such a thing I would appreciate. Very, very short and very easy.
Yeah, similarly, more financial support would have been really nice. Like just how... There was some idea how to structure the budget. I got the budget from another ERC grantee from the institute, so I more or less copied that. But I was a few years old. I had a very different project, and I basically bothered a colleague that, was nice enough to spend a lot of time to build this budget with me, but there was not really administrative help there. And the other thing, what I would have liked more, someone professionally reading the grant, because as most of us here, I'm not a native speaker, and some parts are just really difficult to write, like the impact, like, using these beautiful big words, like how great my proposal is. I suffered writing this half page, and finally I found someone, an American friend, who read it for me, and it was so much better after that. But it would have been easier, if there was someone there who would read the whole thing and just okay, those are little things you can change, and you already feel better about it.
So now when you said, that, I actually recall the most information I got in this respect is me having 2 tables or 3 tables from proposals I've reviewed. If I haven't had this information, I would be completely lost. So this was very useful.
So in my case, I was really lucky that I did not need to care for a budget at all. And Stepanka also knew that in lump sum project there was no need for audit. That was also because afterwards we saw that some other people who applied for the same sort of grant had got less money because they had the audit there. For me, I could not get better support than what Stepanka did. I was really appreciating that, as mentioned before, I was extremely busy with finishing Expro and pushing other people to finish and so on. And so I was not ready to stop and start thinking about the project. So I really appreciated that she taught me start with CV, start with ethical issues. so that, because that's easier. And before I calmed down and thought, okay, now I have a month, I have to do this. Thank you again, Stepanka.
In some institutions, usually the ones which are better funded, like IST Vienna, when you get an ERC grant, you actually get a quite significant top-up of your budget, which is almost equaling the ERC funding, right? So, okay, we don't have that in Czechia, I understand, but did you experience that the institution would be willing to do something to retain you? If you would, for example, say, well, I can take it elsewhere. Or would you imagine what they would do if you say that?
I mean, that was the first question my director asked me after they got the news. Was like, so where are you going? Thank you. So I think it was kind of a joke, but they also kind of braced themselves for the possibility. And actually didn't consider it, but I have the feeling now when I asked for help, they were very willing to give it to me, for example, financially, when I needed some bridging money. And I think there was certainly willingness there and showing appreciation.
Were you, during the preparation of your proposal, were you encouraged or discouraged to work on it during your working hours? And in what terms of support and encouragement would you say that helped to your time management with all other responsibilities at that stage that you were?
In my case, it's, you know, I am my own manager. So in a sense that I always work more than what I should work. So, and that's my problem, that I also work sometimes on weekends and late during the days. And the year I applied for ERC, I had no vacations. Like, I wrote it in summer. And actually, if it was not the deadline at the end of August, I don't know how would I manage. Because I had to teach and so on. So it was summer killer, but at the same time there would be no option otherwise that I would manage. But it's part of it is my problem, and I have always New Year wish I work less.
I don't think there is anything like working time for scientists. I mean, we just work all the time, and it's.
Were you operating under the assumption that you're working as a hobby to prepare the proposal, or was there an understanding in terms of how you would allocate your own time into working on the proposal plus your other?
Yeah, so I would definitely like do the responsibilities, and all the other time was devoted to writing the grant, because it just needs attention.
Yeah, but also in my case, there was quite some understanding that the following year there were very little publications, because I just didn't spend any time on that.
If I may add, if it was not the condition for the successful Expro grant, I would really, I would never do it, because it was such a demanding year with finishing all the Expro results. And I also had a terrible conditions at the academy. But but I had to, and that. So yeah, you succeeded.
I also had an Expro, okay.
Well, I have to say, I was also conditioned from me as a Lumina grant holder, but it was only part, I think, of the motivation. It was also, I think, once I started, kind of satisfying to write the grant. So it was not just the force from the outside.
I really enjoyed the process. I had a lot of fun writing all of the ERCs. I always have a lot of fun. The structure is relatively free compared to a lot of other grants. It's not so bad. Like if you've submitted a couple of NIH style grants, it's just, oh, kill me, you know. It's like a sentence and then 45 citations, and then it's like just so dense. And here it was a little bit more like a, you know, I don't want to be dismissive and say a Netflix script, but you know, you could be a little bit expressive and fun, and so I had a lot of fun. I'm not saying that I didn't take a lot of time, and I was definitely doing it in the evenings, on weekends and things. But it was like creative expression. It was fun. I liked it. So
people are different. For me, it was the worst nightmare.
It might be the output. You're doing like hard mathematics, right? I'm writing like a script that says I will cure all of these people in this magical way. So you go like, you know, yeah. So I was like,
do you encounter other ERC grantees at your institution? If yes, is it good? What does it bring? If no, would you want to? You know, is there? You know, we are talking about, is the environment ready to accept ERC, right? So is there already like a community at institutions of ERC people?
Not really, but we are trying. But when last week I talked to the two other colleagues that have ERC. And when I saw how much they're struggling, it was actually quite depressing for me. So, and we are saying, okay, we kind of have to support each other, but we are so busy, we don't even know where to start, honestly.
For me, somehow the community is rather the community in the field than the department. And yeah, there's a lot of people who have this grant, and it's kind of automatic. I mean that yeah, you're expected, if you're in IST, you're expected to at least give an application.
Without the international community and the many friends and colleagues abroad, many of whom have, or not many, but some of whom have ERC, but many are also Americans and have other prestigious grants.
I think probably Tomáš has that experience as well, right? That you know, these kind of big research institutions or faculties, they're usually free for people who have the grant, right? And so they can give you their grant, you know, they can tell you how was the interview, you know, they can also maybe know, you know, how to get the hotel, you know, in Berkeley at least, right, or something, which is probably more dangerous than Oakland right nowadays, sorry. But, you know, it's you know, something like that, right? So I'm just trying to get a feeling whether this is already happening, you know, that there will be several people with the ERC grant.
There's for sure, I think, a network during preparation. So people are exchanging grants and talking to each other and giving advice about the interviews. But that's the thing. Once you get it, everyone is so busy establishing it. There's just no time left, and you also don't meet each other by chance. So only now, when I set out last week to really talk to the people, I talk to them since I have the grant.
And
I think this is the central idea of Zdeněk's support group, right? That on the level of individual institutions, there is just very few people who have it, right? But within the country, we have how many now grants? Tell me. Almost 100. Okay, that's a community. So 100 is a community, plus if you count the panel members, there would be another 100, maybe. So that's solid already. But if you talk about a single school within Charles University, it would be maybe 1 or 2 at most, right? So that's not a community. So that's why we should do it jointly and not, you know, per individual school or per individual research institute of the academy. I think within the individual institute of the academy, it would be many institutes have none, right? So.
Yeah, but at the same time, the fields are so different that it's. Yeah, I remember your brother Pavel sent me his application for advanced ERC, and it was great, but I understood nothing, and it was not such a help for me, of course, even though I appreciated him sending it to me. But I think the fields are so different that sometimes the community is broken into different groups. Yeah.
But maybe for the interviews, it's not so big of a difference. Actually, I was asked by a Synergy grant lately, which was about history of Middle East, Africa. I mean, yeah, some humanities, and I'm a very non-humanity person. And but I think I think I was able to actually give them some feedback what to do on the interview and what to prepare for, and hopefully at least a bit of it. And this grant was successful, and hopefully I contributed even in the very different field.
That brings me to another question I have in my mind. What do you do as an ERC grantee to somehow influence the environment around you, to maybe use that perspective of having this international funding and being part of that community, to somehow imprint it on the environment around you or help people get more grants and things like that?
Surprised how quickly, immediately after it was announced that I got the grant, how quickly I was approached by people who are applying for ERC, and I had actually in the first 14 days I had several Zooms with individuals from Brno and from Ostrava, from Regensburg. Yeah, so, but it's on the individual level.
I'm afraid I want to answer or need to answer your question, what do we do? And I must say not much. Unfortunately, I feel bad about it, but at least apparently people are willing to listen a bit more to myself. So the ideas which we were saying, from our department, which sounded crazy, are now maybe doesn't sound that crazy, and even some of them are even like future, perhaps. So this kind of like the influence is real. And
well, thanks for saying that. Actually, that makes sense. It was described by Petr Svoboda as the immunity card, the ERC.
Hi, I don't know if this is a question for you guys, but maybe you know, because you mentioned about the community, and I was wondering if the reviewers for the same call take into account the fact that there is 2 applicants from the same field and the same department, different topics. Does that play any role? Like, oh, I'm not going to give, like, say there's 2 good ideas, but they're say, would they take into account the fact that they're from the same institution? Not at all.
Absolutely not. In my case, Stepanka was caring for 2 of us, and we were even going to the same panel, Advanced ERC, and it was very nice that we were supporting each other, and the other person also went to the second round. And I really hope she now will get it for the second term. But it was very supportive.
Of course, the problem would be if the topics would overlap. Yeah. If the topics would overlap, that would be a problem. But if the topics are completely different, the host institution is not an evaluation criterion at all. So, I mean, that's not considered.
At the panel, you are explicitly discouraged to compare the grant to other grants, right? You are evaluating it on its own merit. You don't contrast it to other grants.
And there are absolutely no quotas in terms of host institutions or countries. Okay, so absolutely nothing. There are in terms of the composition of the panels, though. So the Scientific Council is trying to make sure that the panels. That on the panels you have representations of all member states as much as you can. Of course, the expertise is the primary criterion, but also the geographical balance, it does matter, and gender balance and all these things matter on the level of the composition of panels, but not on the level of the funded or the funded proposals.
Kateřina, may I have a quick question? So, did anyone from the faculty approached you after you got the ERC grant with the question of may I ask you for help or whatever? So you mentioned people from different cities and abroad, but did anyone from the Faculty of Arts approached you?
I was only asked recently from a person from the Philosophical Institute of Academy of Sciences to read the application for starting grant. But otherwise, no. From Faculty of Arts, no. I don't know why. But it's okay. I have my work. But it's...
Okay, hello. My name is Eliška Zmiškolová from the Institute of Physics, and I have a question relating to the panel selection, because I have found that if I want to select a panel, I just don't know which one, so I would like to pick your brains, like what things to consider if your research field is, or like what you are doing is interdisciplinary, because I'm really struggling.
Maybe I can take this. So, so first of all, read very carefully the descriptors of the panels because they may also change. So they may change from one call to another. So it's important to be aware of that. This is the starting point. Then multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary projects in ERC has been always an issue. Okay, let's be honest about this. On one hand, the Scientific Council would like to have more interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary proposals funded. They really like to have that. On the other hand, the statistics is that they tend to be less successful than the single disciplinary proposal. That's simply a fact. And the reason for this is that we have these panels, which are not interdisciplinary, unless we're talking synergy, right? Synergy panel is interdisciplinary, but the single PI is not. So, and this would be very hard to change. So we have to deal with this somehow, and so I think one recommendation to the applicants is to always think, when you have an interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary project, think of which of the disciplines is the primary one. If you have multidisciplinary project where none of the disciplines is primary, I would start to think more seriously about the synergy grant. But if you have a cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary project where clearly there is one discipline which is primary, this is the panel you should definitely go to. No, don't try to play the games like, I will go to the other one because they will be impressed, you know, and they will not know, etc. No, that's not a good advice. Go to your primary panel, and then if your proposal is clearly multidisciplinary, it's very likely that the panel chair will find an expert from the other panel to co-evaluate your proposal, even in the step one. But still, the problem is that, okay, there will be a panel report from the neighboring panel or from the other panel, but the person will not be part of the discussion during the panel meeting, because the panels meet in parallel, so they cannot just, you know, go around. People cannot go around. So that's the limitation of the structure of the evaluation in ERC. So the key thing for you as an applicant is to make it very clear which of the disciplines is the primary one and focus on this one. Who else should know this? You know?
Can't you? Can you pick? You can pick more than one panel still, yeah?
Sorry.
I won, I don't know how, obviously it's changed a lot since like 2015, I think is when I submitted my starting grant. And I very naively picked multiple panels because I was looking at everything and I went, oh, I'm that. And, oh, I'm that too. And I just filled out the paperwork and it was fine. So if it's allowed, I think that it might be discouraged. I guess formally it's probably, you guys are saying it's discouraged, yeah? To pick multiple panels?
You can identify more panels, but it will go to one panel.
Yeah.
As a primary.
But they'll get some information from the other panel.
But they'll get some. They can get evaluation from the other panel.
For me specifically, there was like a material science panel, and then there was the LS7, this like translational medicine style panel. And so initially, I went to both, and then when I submitted my consolidator, I was told by an administrator, they were like, maybe just go with one panel. And so there was a brief discussion about neuroscience or translational medicine. Ultimately, I went to translational medicine. I'd been there before, and I felt like I'm effectively doing what you said, was I said, you know, this is like a medical application rather than, you know, a project that needs to be evaluated with some highly technical optogenetics question or something, right? So I did go to neuroscience. But I have heard that some of these more specific panels, and this is only anecdotal, and I've never experienced this, I always thought that the process at ERC was very fair, was that some of these very specific panels, neuroscience in particular, from colleagues that have gone there, say that they're highly political. And I've never known if that's been your experience. If you see some, maybe you can't say if it's a specific panel, but certain panels start to group themselves into they're very polarized. Is that your experience? I'm sort of like trying to integrate your question into this experience. Anecdotally, I have friends, maybe their project sucked, but they would go to some very specific panel and say, I got killed, and some insider information is that X and Y were on that panel, and we know that panel is only supporting research in this direction, blah, 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 blah. And my experience on translational medicine is, lovely questions, lovely people, but you could have a guy in there that's doing fMRI. You could have a guy that's doing some type of electrophysiology that's similar to mine. There could be a guy that's doing foot cream. I have no idea, because it's translational medicine, and everybody, it just seemed to be I've always had a good experience. So sorry, there's a question in there somewhere.
Right. So I can only give you an answer from the perspective of a former scientific council member, is that on each panel, there is someone from the agency sitting throughout the whole evaluation process and watching. So of course, not influencing at all the decision itself, but is watching what is the chemistry, what's going on that panel, how the panel members are behaving, and it's reporting back to the scientific council. And also members of the scientific council go to the panel meetings. And if they see any behavior that is toxic, or there's some signs of political behavior or something, or not fair decision, they simply change the structure of the panel. If you're called as a panel member one year, there's no guarantee you're going to be called next time. There's no obligation, there's no commitment from the side of the ERC. You are called as a panel member year by year or every other year on an individual basis. So it's one actually of the main roles of the scientific council is to oversee how the panels are actually functioning. Not to interfere at all with the decision of the panel, but the composition of the panel and making sure that the panelists are doing their job is the main role of the scientific council. But of course, we're all humans and things happen. So, who?
These guys sitting there and watching.
The scientific council?
No, the observers.
Yeah, the observers are scientists.
No, these are from the agency. So ERC has the scientific council, which is about these 20+ scientists who meet every month in Brussels or elsewhere, and they discuss all the matters. And then there is this executive agency, which is now, I guess, maybe 500, 600 people who are actually responsible for all the technical operations. So there are various lawyers, for example, make sure that there's cohesion with commission, etc. So they are not scientists, but all the people from the agency who deal with the grants, meaning with the panelists or with the grantees, they have PhDs in the field. So if the person who is sitting from the agency during the panel meetings, the person has PhD in that topic. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think we will have to wrap up. It was a great discussion. Obviously, there's is always going to sway a little bit critical, right? Criticality of critical, and but nevertheless, I think that the research environment in Czechia is improving, right? And ERC is a driver of it, right? And I think we are doing well. And the fact that Maria was here today is a sign of it, right? That we are on the right track. And I always kind of caution people from declaring victory when you are just in the middle of a battle, right? So let's just continue doing that. But I'm still going to throw you a little bit out of balance here. So I want to end on something positive. So think about, one word or a short sentence, Adam, right? That you would say positive about ERC. And I will start and I say stuff that matters. That's what I associate with ERC. Stuff that matters.
You want me to say something very short that's positive about the ERC structure? Yeah, like previously, the budget is very large. There's a lot of flexibility. These things are. This is important. Like Maria's. Honestly, one of the best answers I've ever heard was Maria talking about. She was like, work package, objective, get the hell out of here. She was like, you go like, oh, so if you want to hear something positive about ERC, that like her explanation of talking to you about, do you want bulleted point? I'm going to shut up, I promise. Do you want the bulleted points, or do I need to have milestones, or she's like, it's supposed to be a high-risk, innovative project. It's kind of a moving target even through the entire 5 years or whatever you have the grant for. She's like, just, there's a flexibility there.
You gave them a lot of time to think about the one.
Flexibility?
Flexibility, nice.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, no. It's great ERC. Easy administration of the grant. It's great about this grant.
Yeah, I think for me it was really intellectually rewarding, the writing, and now working on it. It is. It's actually fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Yeah. Short.
For me, it's independence. It's great that I can do what I want.
Wait, they're picking better words than me. Those are much better words than my word.
Yeah.
I said flexibility was okay, but they're okay.
We can come back to you.
Ah, okay. Thank you for that.
We'll come back to you only with one word, right?
I got 4. It's by scientists for scientists. It's very exceptional.
Nice. All right. So I think that's it. I would like to thank the panel, for sitting here. It's obviously a little bit awkward. Questions were sometimes not understandable. I apologize. But it was great. Great. Thank you for the participation, and let's see each other again next year at the latest, I would say.
Just before we leave, I would like to thank to all the people who made it possible. That means to Lida, Petra, Veronica, to our technical staff, because it's a lot of work, and I think that should be really appreciated. And the same for the work for the applicants, because without the national NCPs, from the very beginning, it would not be possible. So thank you very much.